The smooth caramel tone melanin you see is a part of me, mixed in and sewn onto my skin like perfectly executed stitches. These stitches, this color, my race, has labeled me the product of immigrants. But what you see, my physical appearance, is simply a piece of the bigger puzzle, the greater picture that I am. I've thought a lot about how being born into an Indian family has thrown me back and forth into a constant dilemma, especially on how to act in certain situations throughout my life. I remember in elementary school when all my friends had cell phones. They would be texting, playing games, and making plans to hang out after school. And then there was me, hoping that each day would be the day my parents would finally get me a cell phone, but boy was I wrong. My parents are pretty funny when it comes to making a rational explanation with me. It usually comes in phases, and I feel like a lot of immigrant parents are the same. So phase one, they try to tell you where you come from, despite the fact that you were born in America. My parents would say something like, Teena, we aren't a white family. We can't just do whatever we want. We're Indian, so we have to act like it. Can someone tell me what being Indian has anything to do with getting a cell phone? They would immediately jump into phase two, the guilt trip, convincing me of my ungratefulness for everything they had done for me, how they left everything behind just for me, how when they were growing up, they had nothing, and here I have everything I could ask for. So let me just say, I soon learned how to act like I was having a great time when all I wanted to do was bang my head against the table for being so lame. The American lifestyle is insanity and chaos in the eyes of the Indian community. Lacking many of the values and morals Indians hold so dear to their hearts. For me, that meant no playdates, sleepovers, hangouts. If I did, however, convince my parents to let me go, there began the interrogation of 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Indian parents want to know. They choose to be involved and are always protective of their children. My mom, for example, who's in the crowd today actually, hi mom, she is the epitome of an Indian parent. She somehow manages to have all my test dates, my projects, presentations, and appointments even before I know them, saved on her phone, ready to whip that out anytime, anywhere. And mind you, that's on top of her job, my brother, and her life. I couldn't tell you how she does it. Indians, however, idealize America, for it is a dreamland of opportunity. It is a goldmine of possibilities and freedoms unknown to those of an Indian. For in India, the job options for a woman growing up, as when my mom was growing up, were basically teacher or housewife. But guys, now, I can choose becoming an engineer, a doctor, or a lawyer. The possibilities, endless. I don't know how I'm going to make up my mind. But seriously, these limitless freedoms of America scare us. They scared my parents because their own parents were so grounded on staying on the straight, clean-cut path that was dug out for them to follow. The path to inevitable success, to a stable job, to a family, and in the end to social happiness. To put in work now in order to relax later. My parents don't want me to deter from this path, just like their parents did not want them to. There is no time to experiment or explore the different streams that flow in and out of this path of success. So, as a good Indian girl I was raised to be, boys were definitely off limits. When I finally got my phone, I was 13, with the context of boys' names changed to girls' names. Alex would be Alexis, and John would become Joanna. Yeah, I thought I was pretty slick back then. One day I came home from school and left my phone on the kitchen counter, and I was in my room changing, when I heard my mom yell my name. I still remember having that 30-second panic attack in my room before I ran out. There my mom was, holding my phone with a picture of me and a guy from school. Me thinking this was all too funny, started laughing. And warning, horrible ideas. My mom goes on this never-ending splurge of, who is this boy? How do you know him? Why are you so close to him? What will people think? Has anyone else seen this photo? In middle school, it's no talking to boys. In high school, it's no talking to boys. In college, it's no talking to boys. And before you know it, you're in your 20s, and it's time to get an arranged marriage to a nice Indian boy, and at this point, you're like, what are boys? California, telling me to just rebel, as if it was acceptable to go against my parents, as if it were that simple. Indian culture is purely community-based, meaning my life is keenly observed by other Indian parents, uncles, grandparents, you name it, I'm being evaluated all the time. It's funny how things work, really. I could be anywhere, and if my family sees another Indian, who could be a complete stranger, mind you, we all act like we've known each other for years and our problems are the same. So we either smile, wave, or even engage in an hour-long conversation on like where in India we come from, how old our kids are, or where we work. Every couple of months, my grandma, a tiny 4'9" Indian woman, would embark on a trip from New York to India alone. That's 18 plus hours, 8,395 miles alone, with little to no armory of English to guide her. I can't even make my way to the schools of this all properly sometimes. So one time when she came back from a trip, I asked her, how do you manage to find your way, not get lost, and still come back in one piece? To which she responds, oh, I have a game plan every time I have a flight. Basically, as soon as we dropped her off at the airport, we made sure she got through the preliminary steps of checking in. She would scan the chaotic crowds from travelers searching for a travel companion. Someone else who's Indian, of course, which is pretty cute. And she and the other individual would make their way through as a unit throughout the entire journey, exchanging stories and memories of their lives during the flight. And before they went into their separate ways, she would take their numbers down and keep in touch with those connections she made that she formed during these trips. However, this past October, my grandmother, the most beautiful, pure, and religiously devoted woman I knew, was gone. One word, cancer. The rapid multiplying of cells inside a tumor, inside her frail, poor body, pained her every waking moment, every breath. On Wednesday, October 5th, 2016, she could no longer hold on. Just a couple weeks ago, we got a phone call from an unknown number. The woman on the other line introduced herself as a friend of my grandmother's. My mom, assuming this was another call for condolences, just waited online listening. The woman proceeded to say, "Where is Rachel? I met her on a plane when I was traveling to India. How's she doing?" The story behind all this was that my grandmother and this woman had been keeping in touch for years, ever since they had met. A couple hours together, and they had a connection beyond imagination. But how can she be gone? I can no longer hear her loving voice advising me, telling me that everything will be okay, that I am the most beautiful girl. I can't wrap myself around her, press my lips onto her soft cheeks to give her the kisses she always asked for. I still feel her presence, watching me develop the thread. So it has been hard, and it will always be hard to put a smile on my face every time I walk out the door. But my connections, my friends and family, I have made the harder times a lot more manageable. My grandma was my link, my connection to my culture, the sole reason I am bilingual, capable of speaking Melanin. She, along with many others in the Indian community, have added on their strand to the web of interconnectedness and support in my life. Somehow, all of us as Indians in America feel connected as a whole entity. Intertwined by our cultures and traditions, we decide how much of us must be Indian, or the better question may be, what percentage of us must act like we're American in order to fit in here. But to me, it's not about fitting in here. It's about being able to feel like myself wherever I am, wherever I go, comfortable and accepted around people. Like I said earlier, I realized at a young age how empowering communication and connections to people can be. It fascinates me how much an effect a support system of individuals has on a person because of how we all take our connections for granted. All the connections I have encountered in my life have somehow shaped me into who I am. When a person enters your life, you can never tell how long they are in your world to stay, what changes they will make, or how you'll be affected by them. Piece by piece, section by section, we put our lives together much similar to putting a puzzle piece together. In the beginning, it's all trial and error. There will be moments of utter frustration and boredom pushing you to give up. Instead, just take a deep breath. Know that the pieces are all there, and the more ways you put them, the more connections you will make. Know that the connections in your life will only make the task easier, so with open arms, accept that help. And soon the bigger picture can be seen and the images come together to form the overall vision of your life. With the words of Ruby Carr's poem, Balance from Milk and Honey, I want to say thank you to the universe for taking all that it is given and giving me all that it is giving. Being an American girl with Indian roots has blessed and guided me to focus on a path to look for success in the future. The culture is a part of my identity, my morals, my soul for that very matter. I can try to cut these strings, these boundaries, these differences. Oh, what is it? Sorry, guys. Yeah. More up. That last slide, 60. Thank you. Being an American girl with Indian roots has blessed and guided me to focus on my path to look for success in the future. The culture is a part of my identity, my set of morals for that very matter. I can try to cut the strings, the boundaries, the differences that connect me to my roots. That tie me down to the label. However, without them, I would not know who I am anymore. So I leave with thoughts to ponder. I